Welcome to the Mint Budget Special. We are here today to discuss the 2012-13 Union Budget tax proposals. To do so, we have two very important guests in our studio, Prerna and Dharnendra, both from BMR Advisors. Let me cut to the chase directly. Dharnendra, is this budget tax proposals inflationary or no?
Indeed, they are inflationary, and I would say that there is a 20% increase in the excise and service tax rates. So from 10 they have raised to 12, and they have also tried to widen the tax base for excise for the service tax. They have introduced the negative list, which means that erstwhile there was a positive list of services. Going forward, all the services except certain 17 services would be taxable. That means there will be a broad base which will be applicable.
So they have done, not only have they raised the rates, they have already widened the tax base. So how much is he proposing to raise from this move?
See, the total intake that they are expecting is close to 45,000 crores from indirect taxes. Out of this, there will be large portion of it will come from service tax, which today is 60% of the GDP, but the tax collection is close to 10%. They want to increase this 10% and make it.
But the price they'll pay is inflation.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. So the giveaways are indirect taxes, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the limited giveaways that come out of this budget, yeah, clearly are, I think to some extent, are indirect taxes. So the slab rates have been moderated. There is a good relief. The slab rates have been made aligned to what was proposed under the original DTC. That's a welcome move. There are some incentives that have been given for the R&D sector. So in-house research and development, they have extended the weighted deduction, which was otherwise getting expired in 2012, that's got extended by another 5 years. So there are some sort of incentives that have been given.
How much does it all add up to?
Difficult to quantify. But I think it is
4,000 to 5,000.
Yeah. So the finance minister did make a statement that the kind of loss that he's expecting out of this giveaways is 4,000 crores. But I don't know if you look at the entire overall amendments that have been made, even on the direct tax side, is it really going to be a loss, or he's going to make a multiplier of what he's giving away by way of anti-avoidance provisions that he's introducing?
You seem to be also referring to the kind of tweaks they have done in the laws so that retrospectively it can override, Supreme Court judgments like the Vodafone
Yeah,
case.
I'm not just talking, so, if we get to that, then it's not just a tweak. I would think that by way of using the term retrospective amendment or the term clarification, the finance minister has brought about wide sweeping amendments which go back right up to 1962. So that is not just going to bring in uncertainty, it is going to bring in a huge litigation. Foreign investors are likely to face a huge litigation. So there are a lot of downsides to that. But yes, the intent was good. The intent was to curb tax evasion. So I guess if there is a giveaway or a swap in the form of better tax slabs for individuals, there is a lot that the corporates will have to face.
So that's a good cue. Dharnendra, the point is that there were serious tax reforms on the agenda of this country.
Right.
They were broadly the single goods and services tax on the indirect tax, and there's direct tax reform on the direct tax side. Now, from what Prerna has just said, there seem to be some markers that have come through. So are there any markers in the right direction towards tax reform, particularly in indirect taxes in the case of GST, if I can begin with you?
Sure. Certainly the finance minister did make certain announcements which gear towards bringing the GST in place. And if I may mention, what they've tried to do is aligning the service tax and excise. The rate parity has been maintained while they've increased the rate from 10 to 12%, but both for excise and service tax they've increased that rate. Second, what they've also done is negative list, which they have introduced, is also paving way for GST. Even the place of supply rules, which was not there erstwhile, and which would be required if we have GST in place, that is also a welcome move. However, as we all know, GST, because of the constitutional amendment which is pending and the bill is pending before the standing committee of the parliament, So we don't know when it will come.
There's no timeline.
There's no timeline, absolutely.
So, but from his side, he's made the right moves.
He's made certain moves, certainly.
Okay.
Yes.
Prerna, on the direct tax side, the Standing Committee of Finance had submitted a week ahead of the budget the direct tax report, right? The DTC. Now, has he drawn from that to set the motion forward, like in GST on DTC?
Unfortunately not, because though he has advanced certain amendments or certain landmark provisions that he wanted to introduce under the DTC, but having said that, the standing committee recommendations which were shared about a week back, none of those recommendations seems to have got actually incorporated in the finance bill. To give you an example, in GAR, standing committee had actually made recommendations that there has to be an independent panel that has to approve the order that will be passed by the commissioner for GAR. The finance bill does talk about actually an appellate authority, or basically an approving body rather than an appellate authority, an approving body to approve the orders of the commissioner for GAR. But this approving body is essentially a body of commissioners, an income tax commissioner. So how independent would this body be is something that needs to be seen, and and how would it be practically administered needs to be seen.
But has he kind of done anything which can reverse the trajectory towards DTC? Because there was this fear that the original DTC had been severely diluted by this finance minister, which was then handed off to the standing committee.
Right.
And the standing committee has sought to restore a lot of that balance back. So in this budget, has he gone towards his version of DTC, or has he gone back to the original version of the DTC?
I think he's almost gone back to the original version of DTC, and to some extent this version if I specifically refer to GAR, seems to be more onerous than what even the original version of DTC seemed to suggest. So I don't think in provisions that he's tried to introduce, or he has actually introduced, not right. So for instance, GAR, APA, anti-avoidance, a significant focus on anti-avoidance, all of those provisions, he has not just done or introduced what was proposed under the DTC, but he's walked a mile forward. There's been a provision that's been introduced to say that if an investor is investing into a company at a value which is higher than the fair value of the shares of that company, the differential will be taxed as income. So this, to my mind, is being over-ambitious about trying to curb tax avoidance, because this would impact genuine cases of PE investors investing into the company, where they have a perception of a business which is higher than what on that date is reflective of the value of the underlying assets. So if a PE investor believes or has a perception that the value of the business is higher than what its fair value is, the differential will be taxed in the hands of the company. So I think he's gone a little overboard on anti-avoidance.
So if I've understood both of you right, that the finance minister has taken several initiatives in this budget. They've been driven more by tax mobilization, right? So if I was a foreign investor, to both of you, beginning with you, Dhanendra, what is the lesson that I would take away from this? That as a foreign investor, is it retrograde? Do I have a sense of confusion about going forward, or is it in the right direction in the case of indirect tax?
In the case of indirect taxes, the confusion does prevail, especially how the negative list would be implemented, how place of supply rules would be implemented. There would be far-reaching consequences, a lot of litigation. As it is, there are too many litigations that the industry is facing. So I definitely believe that the confusion would prevail and it will not dilute.
But Prerna, do you have similar fears on the direct tax side, which I think you alluded to earlier?
Yeah.
That foreign investors are going to get edgy with what he has done.
Not just edgy, to my mind, though contrary to what his speech said, that he wants to, the entire motive is to bring in certainty. I feel for foreign investors, it's going to bring in more uncertainty than ever before, because a lot of these retrospective amendments have been introduced just to overturn the decisions of the Supreme Court. A very recent Vodafone decision, the decision was passed by the Supreme Court a month back, and amendments have been brought about retrospectively to basically completely reverse those decisions. And similarly, there have been certain landmark Supreme Court decisions which have been reversed because of the retrospective amendments that have been made in the laws. So to my mind, it is going to bring in more uncertainty for a foreign investor. He's going to see a lot more litigation that they've ever seen in this country. So it's nothing but more uncertainty than ever before.
So the tax lawyers are going to be very happy with this news. So if I can, the final question to both of you, if there are two takeaways from this budget of 2012-13, one positive, one negative, what would it be? Begin with you, Dharmendra.
On the positive front, I would think that infrastructure, and there is a lot of impetus that the finance minister has tried to or has proposed is towards infrastructure development and power sector, energy in general. How much would it actually be effective is only time would test. On the negative side, yes, inflation is the most important of all, which will impact the Aam Aadmi, common man. Of course, there is negative list, which is broadening the base. Till date, we were aware what services are taxable. Today, there will be a lot of things which we don't even know are within that, those courts services, and those get taxed. So, knowingly or unknowingly, we may be defaulting. So, all those negatives are there, and litigation and at least disputes would increase in the times to come.
Prerna, you have the final word.
I think uncertainty is what I would end this. Is the takeaway for me from this budget.
The negative, the positive.
Positive is only the slabs. So I think just better slabs, but overall a lot of uncertainty, a lot of litigation, and a lot of administering to be seen from the government.
Thank you both. So our experts have spoken. They say it's a double whammy. Not only is it inflationary, it is also ridden with flaws that can create more litigation going forward. So in that sense, anti-tax reform. More importantly, given the inflationary impetus of this budget, what will the UPA's Aam Aadmi say? Thank you for watching.